This is the Brighter Web Podcast, insights on growing a small business using the latest technology and marketing best practices. I'm Robert here with Mickey, and today I thought we'd spend some time discussing messaging and how that applies to people's businesses.
Cool, it's a great topic. So I guess why is messaging important though? You know, we're a web design shop, so we're going to make pretty designs. Why does messaging matter really?
Well, I mean, I think for the most part, it's just about having a clear and consistent, way about speaking about your business, right? Just like you just said about who we are as Green Melon, we're a website shop, right? Well, what does that mean? How does that impact people, right? So having a clear and concise way to, even just be able to talk to somebody casually about what your business does, because, that's how we do as human beings. We talk to one another. We want to know what each other does, right? And if you can actually explain it in a way that is meaningful to somebody, then it's actually more likely that they'll want to do business with you.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense. And I know you're real passionate about this, and you have 5 different pieces you like to go through to figure out what that full message looks like. Let's work through some of those and see what you have to say. So the first one is the audience. Tell me about the audience you try to unpack.
Yeah, well, I mean, it always begins with your who, right? You want to talk about and talk to somebody in particular, right? Because it ultimately comes down to, we're going to do business with people. And so, well, who are those people? Who are you trying to reach? Who's your target audience? And so really being able to understand, a lot more granularity than just that, right? Understanding what they're looking for, where they live, how to actually be able to reach them, how to communicate with those people. That is really the kind of foundation for a lot of messaging, because you're ultimately trying to reach those people, and you're ultimately trying to have a clearer message for them, right? Because they're the ultimately ones who are going to run across your website or see your advertising or one of those kind of things. So when you're able to create a message that's ultimately going to resonate with them, that's what you're trying to begin at.
Gotcha. Well, that makes sense. And so, of course, the audience is just the people, though. And so next you want to unpack the problem that they have. And this is one I think a lot of companies miss. They don't really clearly articulate the problem. So how do you uncover that?
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, as you understand your audience, I think, you're naturally going to kind of see what challenge that, that you help them deal with. And that's obviously jumping ahead a little bit, but that's kind of the way you back into it, right? Is understanding, okay, well, what is it that they need, right? Because every business is ultimately solving some sort of problem for somebody, right? You're trying to actually fix something in their lives and make their lives easier. Otherwise, why are they going to even do business with you, right? Why is it worth them paying their money for your product or your service? And so really understanding kind of what challenge they face is going to help you understand and again uncover a message in a way that tells people, hey, you're dealing with this thing, you're facing this tension. I can help you with that. Yep. So that's the problem that the person faces.
Yeah, and I think that really can draw people in, because if you can articulate that you understand their problem, they'll trust that you have a solution for them. And that's kind of the next one, is then to explain your solution.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's, again, where you're kind of backing from. Usually, hopefully you've started your business, your service, whatever, with a kind of market gap in mind, right? You've found kind of a place where, hey, people have this issue and I'm going to help deal with it. Not every business really realizes that they started in that way, right? I'm selling this product because, well, people, it solves this issue that somebody had. And so really, basically that, uncovering your service or your product as some solution to somebody's problem. I'm going to help you resolve this tension in your life. I'm going to make your life easier because I've got this thing that can really help you out. Is good, and that applies both to B2B companies. If you're working with a business, or if you're working B2C, if you're working with a consumer, you really just want to think about, how can I help this person in their business world, their professional life, or how can I deal with this person in their home, where they live, or in their car, or something like that. So you really want to get where people are, understand their problem, and then kind of come up with some way of, how do I help them?
Gotcha. And that seems like the end of it. I know we have 2 more to go through, but if you go through, we've talked about the audience so far, the problem they have, and we've offered the solution. So that's really it. But there's 2 more important pieces. The next one is credibility, about why they should trust you. And I think establishing that is key, because even if you have the solution, if people don't know that they really trust that you have the right solution, or trust that you're ethical or whatever it is, it could be a problem.
Yeah, because, I mean, in most cases, there's going to be another option out there, and sometimes that option is, I'm just going to ignore this problem and hope it goes away on its own, right? So in a lot of cases, you do have to earn trust, right? You have to actually let people know, like, hey, I can really help you, and I'm not trying to pull some scheme on you. This isn't some sort of trick, right? Because that unfortunately has been the case in a lot of, businesses and marketing. Marketing's kind of got this sleazy perception in some cases. And so we really have to be like, no, I care about what you had to say, right? You have to have empathy with your audience and go, no, I understand what issue you're going through. I want to help you. And then kind of the other half of that credibility is the authority piece, is going, not only do I care about this, but hey, I've been helping people out just like you for 25 years. I've helped thousands of customers. I have, this kind of accreditation or this sort of certification. You can trust me. I can prove and check these boxes off in your head. And all of those little pieces add up to a bigger credibility for you as a business that will help, again, when you explain that after you've kind of dealt with, the problem and the solution, you've kind of established basically you're right for people to listen to you, then you can say, okay, now a little bit about me. Here's why I can kind of be your guide in helping kind of overcome this challenge that you may be facing.
Awesome. That makes total sense there. And then so once you've established your credibility as the guide, it's very important too to give a clear next action for people.
Yeah, because a lot of cases, I've seen plenty of marketing websites that are just like, all right, here's about us, here's our company history. Okay, great. Now what, right? Like there's even some cases where it's like really compelling. Like they do the first few steps of here and they really actually show me, what the issue is and, it resonates with me. And I'm like, all right, cool. I want to do business with you. But I'm like, how? Like where do I start, right? And so a clear call to action, on your website is a great place to start. But even, whether that's an ad or it's a social media post or like any marketing piece that you put out there should ultimately have some sort of call to action. It should be pretty clear, right? It may be a small step, right? Like a social media post, you may not necessarily be asking somebody to take the action of, signing up to be a new client or buying this product right away. Like you can have smaller calls to action, but ultimately they should lead towards building a relationship with you, right? They should ultimately lead towards, you actually building your business and growing your business through marketing. So yeah, I think just having a clear understanding of what that call to action should be, again, from a softer one of like, hey, download this free ebook or follow us on social media or subscribe to our newsletter. Like those are softer things, but ultimately they should hopefully be leading to a clearer action. And all those things, again, consistency is really important, making sure that those all align actually with your messaging and that those are consistent with the problem and the solution. Those are, I think, really important things.
Awesome. So your 5 items, just to recap here, were the audience who you're trying to do business with, the problem that audience faces, the solution you can help offer to them, the credibility for why they should trust you, and then the next action they should take to get started. So I figured all this stuff out. I have all this written out. What do I do with this now? What do I do with this content? Where do I put it?
That's a really good question, and that's a daunting one that a lot of businesses usually run into. But I ultimately think about this as a filter that any piece of content that you're creating, any marketing strategy or campaign that you're putting together, it should run through this filter of asking kind of these 5 questions or these kind of 5 buckets. Run through this and make sure you kind of understand who your audience is for this thing, what problem you're trying to solve, et cetera, et cetera. And really, if you kind of employed that pretty simple framework, it's going to set you up for a lot more success in that. Again, if it's an advertising campaign, if it's you relaunching your website, even if it's something simple like your logo, right? You can't pack all of that into something as simple as a logo. Right. But you still want to have that in the back of your mind. A lot of this kind of stuff may be stuff that you're thinking about just internally. You as a business leader, or you as your team. Some of these things may not actually come out, publicly. You might not write about this on your website or, include it in your logo, but it's all good things to help you think through so you've got a more strategic approach to your marketing.
Yeah, and I think consistency is the key there. I think you can use all 5 of these on your website because you have room to dig into that.
Right.
But then keeping those individual pieces consistent across social media and email marketing and advertising and all that is huge. So.
Yeah, there's going to be different places where you're going to want to turn up the dial on a certain piece, here or there. You may focus on your audience a little bit more in this piece, and you may focus, this is a really important part where we stress our credibility on this page of the website or in this campaign, right? So there are going to be different levels to each one of these different things, but you're going to want to be consistently thinking about each one and try to include as many of them as you can in each of your different marketing platforms.
Cool. Awesome. I appreciate it, Robert. That was great insights.
Yeah, of course. Well, and thank you for listening to this episode of the Brighter Web Podcast with Robert and Mickey. We're from Green Melon, a digital marketing agency, And if you want more insights like this, you can visit our blog at greenmelonmedia.com. We'll also be including a few more resources about messaging that we use to prepare this episode in the show notes, along with links to new episodes at abrighterweb.com.